Well, clearly everyone now has the tools to put whatever they like online. If we want to call individuals publishers, I think quite a few individuals who actively put content online would think that was a title that didn't work for them. But whichever word we want to use, clearly everyone now has the means to put content online. And I think that can be a little unsettling for people who've been doing that for a very long time, like BBC and lots of other people. But actually, for me, there's a strength in what's happening, because the internet is allowing us to understand the experiences of far more people far more easily. And so we need to change our skills to be able to look at this content that's being put online and think about how we can use it. And so as such, I see it more as an opportunity than a threat. I would, though, say that what we're seeing is the key tools of publishing being shared not just across individuals, but across all companies. So we're now seeing, an obvious example is Red Bull very heavily entering the video and TV arena, or Vice, which was once a magazine, now producing very long current affairs documentaries. And the examples go on and on. Amazon producing a rival to Top Gear. And so there are lots of different publishers, not just individuals, but companies who previously would never have been in the content game. And then there's those of us who've been around for a while. And it's a busy marketplace, but I think in the end you have to be confident that if you have some core brand values, and in our case some core journalistic values which you're committed to, and you understand that how you apply those in the digital world needs to be demonstrably different to what you've done in the past, there's no reason you can't succeed. And you're seeing lots and lots of creative, imaginative partnerships, and I think brands, news organizations, content publishers, all of us really, if you're not thinking very carefully about who can I partner up with, how can I do something special and different through partnerships, I think you're going to lose out. Doing it alone is getting harder and harder. I think you need to do two things. I think one is easier than the other. The first is to think about, what am I as an individual, or what are we as a company or a brand? And you need to be incredibly clear on that. You'd be surprised how many people, when you say, what is it that you do? What is it that you represent? They can't answer you in a sentence. Now, we're lucky at the BBC, it's been around for pushing a century. We know our duty to the UK and the world is to inform, explain and entertain. Less so entertain for news, but you get my point. And it runs through all of us. So we have a very strong sense of what our duty is, and then in terms of BBC News, we have a very, very strong sense of the journalistic approach that we take and the commitment we have to balancing stories and to remaining neutral in them and to explaining them and to not bringing our opinions to it. And that sense is very strong. Whether it's strong or not, a company or a brand needs to work that out. Once you've worked that out, you then need to work on the digital arenas that you're going to step into. And I think one of the mistakes we're seeing at the moment, whether it's in news or elsewhere, is for people to see the digital arena as one coherent entity. In fact, it's not. How you express yourself on Vine versus Instagram versus Facebook versus WeChat versus Viber versus, and the list goes on, is quite different. And I would strongly recommend, as someone who's not always got this right, spend some time in that environment before you put anything in there. Because if you just barge in as a brand or as a news organization and you come across as only being there because, hey, we've heard we might be able to get a few more people to look at BBC News, that's not authentic and people are not going to like it. I think I've had the most success digitally in the digital environments where I really feel I belong. I spend time there, I understand it, and I think my tone then fits. But actually, whether I'm using a certain tone on the TV or the radio or on Twitter or streaming on Facebook or whatever it might be, these are all environments I feel quite comfortable in. And at the heart of it is my work as a journalist and my work for BBC News, and that doesn't change. It's just the tone and the manifestation of that journalism changes. If you're on Facebook, this is a fluid, spontaneous environment. It is before live streaming was added as a feature, and quite recently Facebook's added that as well. People are reasonably forgiving. They're not coming to a Facebook live stream for the highest production values. They're definitely not coming for TV. If they want TV, they can turn on TV. What they're coming for is a direct, unfiltered connection with a journalist or journalists or an event or a guest who they want to be able to connect with. So a couple of days ago I was at Wits University with one of the main Fees Must Fall guys, and we had massive figures, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people watching on Facebook. Now, this is me just holding my phone with this guest. The Wi-Fi dropped off twice. That wasn't ideal, so we had to kind of come back up. So it's a little more haphazard than you would tolerate on the TV. Huge numbers, and people had plenty to say about my interviewing style with him. Some liked it, some didn't. People had nothing to say about the fact the camera was a bit wobbly. They were tolerant of that. Actually, just a tip, the thing people care about most with live streaming is audio. If you get that wrong, they'll just leave. On the TV, people have different expectations. Now, their expectations are shifting, and I think the days when they want a presenter to go, hello, I'm from the BBC, and those days are definitely going. But the TV as a format is not going to tolerate wobbly cameras or the kind of level of informality that I am able to do on Facebook, because people are turning on the TV at the top of the hour to get the news. They're not clicking on a live stream on Facebook to get, here are the 10 top stories. So editorially, they're providing quite different services. In terms of tone, though, I don't think there's a huge difference. I would like to think that, you're sitting here chatting with me now, and then you might turn on and see me on the television, or you might follow me on Twitter, or you might watch me on Facebook, or you might see some of my vines, or you might look at my stills on Instagram and the text that goes with that. I I stand to be corrected, I think that would feel like the same person. And the secret here is there is no secret. Authenticity means be yourself. And so for individuals, it's simply don't feel the pressure to become something different when you're in a broadcast or a media environment. Just be yourself and trust yourself to have something that the audience might want. In the case of brands, it comes back to what we were talking about earlier. You've got to deeply understand what you are before you then step into the arena. But if you do, the rest will follow. The difference that perhaps I offer sometimes, and I don't have a monopoly on this, is that I've started to try and explore, with reference to TV news, how we can take the way we approach consuming information and sharing information online and introduce that to a TV environment, because the classic TV news format has really been unchanged since the 1960s, and it's been incredibly successful, and in some places, the UK being one, it still is very successful, so I'm not doing it down. But the reality is that for whole swathes of people, particularly people under the age of 40, not just people under the age of 40, that format's not working anymore. And so we either give up on the medium of TV, which would be a terrible shame because it's been hugely powerful in the last 50 years and has a lot to offer, or we try and create TV that feels at ease in the digital world. And I think if I'm doing anything that's different to perhaps the majority of broadcast journalists, is that I am obsessively pursuing how we can create broadcasts that work in the digital world. And one of the big mindsets that I've tried to take on board, and it's taken me a while, I'm not claiming I had some eureka moment 15 years ago, I didn't, but certainly in the last few years I've come to understand that, okay, when I'm on the TV I'm obviously broadcasting, but actually when I'm on Twitter I'm broadcasting too, and when I'm on Facebook I'm broadcasting in a different way, and whether I'm posting on Facebook or live streaming on Facebook or posting Vine videos or posting Instagram videos, whatever the examples are, they're all forms of broadcasting. And some people, I think, feel like this is a different thing. You're either a broadcaster on TV or you're a digital journalist. And I think this is all squashing into one. And I think the broadcasters who will survive, the companies, who will survive, and the individual broadcasters who will survive in the long term are people who are prepared to have one core journalistic approach, but apply that in a range of different environments. And I think if you can't be nimble between those environments, of course you may succeed anyway. I'm not claiming to have the secret of success at all. There are lots of people with much bigger followers on social media and much bigger audiences as well. But I do think that in the end, if you don't enter the arena and learn the game and show willingness, you might struggle.